I did not think we'd be talking about this after this game, but
Right.
I'm going to take some time and have conversations with the folks around here, and then take some time away and make a decision. Obviously, before free agency or anything kind of gets going on that front, but it's fresh right now. It's a little shocking for sure. Very proud of what I've been able to accomplish here. Thankful, deeply thankful for so many years here in the organization and all the incredible teammates and coaches I've had over the years. That's part of the legacy, I think, the friendships and the memories on and off the field. But I don't know, I'm still super competitive. I still know I can play at a high level. So it's going to be a tough decision. A lot of things to weigh in the coming weeks. But man, just so much gratitude for this city and this organization. And
this was the team. They were getting healthy at the right time. The Super Bowl went through Lambeau. He was there for 17 seasons. It did not work out. And they've won one Super Bowl appearance with Aaron Rodgers there. Where do they go from here, KB?
I'm watching that, and it's not subtle. It feels like he's come out and saying all the relationships I have here and all these people. Like, that seems like a walk-away goodbye speech, and then you add it to the other soundbite we'll get to about I don't want to be part of a rebuild. I think he's done in Green Bay. That's just my gut. That's just watching him over the years. I think there's two scenarios here. Either he retires or he goes to another team. I think there is a very little chance he goes to Green Bay, and I think he has known this since the summer that this was it. This was the last dance. That wasn't just a cute metaphor. I think he knows exactly what time it is with who's going to be leaving or staying. And then there's this other factor of, like, how many times am I going to do this? How many times am I going to come back to Wisconsin every summer and then lose in the playoffs? And you got to be psychologically exhausted at one point, and especially someone who's as psychologically diverse as he is, must be looking for some sort of new challenge, must be looking for some sort of new atmosphere. There's practical reasons about players leaving. There's emotional reasons about I need a new challenge. And then there's just the non-subtle reasons of he's actually, after his last game, thanking all the people for all the wonderful, warm memories. That feels like a concession speech that after someone loses an election and they know it's over. I think he's done in Green Bay, personally. He's either retire, which I think he won't do because he still thinks he wants to play ball. So what I'm saying is I think the most likely scenario is on a different team next year. That's my gut.
What do you mean new challenge? Wouldn't the biggest challenge be stay there and actually win another Super Bowl?
Maybe. But he's tried that challenge year after year after year.
So he's just going
to do it. Something new. And I think he's going to be on another team next year, if I had to bet.
I've always thought that they were going to get a divorce. When he set the stage just before training camp, and he basically negotiated his out to his contract. He talked about in the interview, didn't want to be part of a rebuild. They're $40 million over the cap. Devontae Adams is going to be a free agent. That's going to cost him at least $22 million to be able to get him signed. And the thing about Aaron is about his money. It's not no Tom Brady. Now, he's not going to give him no discount. Because if he was able to give him a discount, he could be like, hey, let's do this over again. But no, he's about the money. He's about a change. And the reason why I have to be careful when I listen to players is the biggest weakness they have is those special teams. They're the worst in the league. And if that's a third of your football team, you're going to have a hard time when it comes to playoff football. I guarantee you, in all his discussions the last several years, he's never talked about the special teams and the lack of quality special teams that lead to playoff victories and Super Bowls. I don't know if his legacy wants to be is I won the same number of Super Bowls as Trent Dilfer, Brad Johnson. Also recently retired. Eli Manning's got one more than me.
Nick Foles.
Big Ben got one more than me. Flacco's got one. Nick Foles got one. To me, you can't put their careers next to Aaron Rodgers, but when it comes to the big games, and we keep counting on those Super Bowl trophies, he's the same as those guys.
The internet had a field day when he lost, too. Like,
I know.
The jokes were, and it wasn't just the internet. I think people around the league were excited to see him lose. The sight of him just with his hands in his arm. He went from, in 12 months, being the most beloved, personable, funny guy who talks, he's doing Jeopardy, to like now being this villain. And I can't imagine a more turbulent 12 months for any NFL player from one NFC Championship game where everyone was like, how do you not let him go for it? He's right, he's right. to him walking off a Lambeau, and I think most people have been like, serves him right. He was bigger than the team all summer. He was the one who was talking about himself. He came out. He lied to the media. He did all this. I'm fascinated about the next few months of Rodgers, whether he goes into a hibernation mode and we don't hear from him, or if he's out and about and talking and being, out there on the platforms and speaking with Joe Rogan and speaking with Pat McAfee and doing interviews with NFL Network and out there, because this is one of the most unpredictable situations that we have at the quarterback spot. And I also wonder from the Packers side, are they like, all right, it's been a lot. Maybe that was a nice time for us. We've got our first-round quarterback. No one man is bigger than the organization. And I think it's going to be both ways this year. I don't think it's just going to be Rodgers dictating. I think it could go the other way, where the Packers, just like they did to Favre and said, another offseason of this. We got Rodgers sitting here. It's amazing how history repeats itself. Rodgers is a lot. And he's amazing. But this is an exit plan for the Packers if they wanted it too. And I cannot tell you how it's going to go down, but I don't think it's just a one-way road on this one. I think there's a scenario where they're like, all right, let's trade him for 3 first-round picks and let's move on as well.
You can only beat your head against the wall so much and have it not work out until you want. I wouldn't say new challenge, a change of scenery. This isn't working here. You just said 3 first-round picks?
Yeah.
That's what it was. So there's tons of teams that are going to line up for his services, right?
I think so.
What's the market for Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, the line should start right here at Good Morning Football, right down the road. It could be media, it could be teams, it could be anything. That is what he's single-handedly one of the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen.
What do we know? He doesn't have a ton of time left because he's mulling retirement. It would have to be a situation where it's a loaded squad, right? A squad that has an identity and leadership that's on his level, right? That's all we. What else do we know?
No, look.
He doesn't want to rebuild.
But what level is that? What makes him so much better than Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, all these other quarterbacks? Who wants to put up with that mess? Who wants to have him come into the principal's office every week? Oh, I'm complaining about this. Because Green Bay is one of the great franchises all time. They have supported all their players there, on and off the field. Aaron Rodgers has gotten everything that he wanted there. Now, has he delivered?
No, Chris, the juice is worth the squeeze with this guy. That's the whole discussion. He's the best player in the league this year. I mean, I understand the eye roll thing and he's Rodgers. He is amazing.
Yeah, but this is not tennis. He's not Serena.
There's something to that.
This is not Tiger Woods.
Sure.
All right, where I'm responsible for everything. You got other people in there. In Green Bay, there's a lot of guys in that locker room haven't been able to say anything. Why? Because they know they're handcuffed. They know that they can't.
You think they will?
Why can't you develop another receiver? In the biggest games. That became very important. Devontae Adams has 100 more targets than the next closest wide receiver. That's an issue in the wide receiver room. All right? That's an issue. It was an issue in yesterday's game. He throws in the double coverage, and the guy's 15 yards across the middle. How many years have they been doing that? So he's not the only one that's got a voice there.
At some point, you lose all these home playoff games. It's not about everyone else. And as the quarterback making $38 million, you've got to wear it sometimes.
Yeah, they say sometimes, that's me. Yeah, he's part of the stink there.
What do you got, Kyle?
I don't think he's going to retire. I feel strongly about that. I think he still thinks he's as good as he is and he has years to play. I think he's going to go shopping.
Would you leave that division where it's the Bears, the Vikings, and the Lions twice a year?
And everybody says Denver, then you got to play Mahomes and Herbert.
I think he's got it pretty good in Green Bay.
What do you think? Do you think he stay?
I think he should stay. You should consider it. If they want him.
Predict it. Knowing what you know about him. Do you think he's going to stay in Green Bay? I don't either.
And I can't put myself in his shoes. But
I don't think. But can you?
Grass isn't always greener.
But you don't think he'll walk away, right? That's not where you lean. It's not like 50-50. I think there's this narrative now that he's a regular season. He's an MVP.
There is.
He's a regular season MVP. His playoff split is not cute. So I think that he will do anything to fight and change that for his narrative. He keeps talking about his narrative, what's important to him, and he's going to want to set that straight.
I agree. And I think he's going to go shopping like Brady did and say, who wants to play? And if it's Denver, who knows? If it's somebody else, I don't think he's done, and I do think he's done in Green Bay.